This 9-step checklist is going to completely change how you think about building a personal brand. I analyzed over 183 successful personal brands, and I discovered they all follow the same 9-step blueprint that most people completely ignore. The crazy thing is that most entrepreneurs struggle because they have no clear brand strategy, and as a result, they aren't making consistent income, and they're definitely not hitting that 7-figure mark that we're all after. But after working with 183 personal brands and helping them scale, I've learned that there are 9 foundational elements that these affluent personal brands have mastered. But the key here is that each of these elements builds off of one another. So missing just one of these elements can be the difference between hitting the 7-figure mark with your personal brand or having to throw in the towel and go back to working your 9-to-5. All right, y'all, so welcome back to my channel. My name is Darren Peele, and if you're new here, the entire purpose of this channel is to help you hit that 7-figure mark with your personal brand. So if you're not already subscribed, please take a second to hit that subscribe button. In today's video, we are breaking down the 9 foundational elements to building a successful personal brand. In my work with clients who are crushing the 7-figure mark, I've learned that there is a common thread amongst all the 7-figure earners. These are what separate those who are able to seemingly effortlessly scale from those who struggle to grow their brand. And after years of studying exactly what separated those high income earners from the rest, I've uncovered 9 quantifiable metrics or elements and put them into this one comprehensive checklist for you. I even went as far as to put these 9 elements into a dedicated quiz that you can take. This quiz will walk you through all 9 elements and give you quantifiable measurements as to where you land on a scale from 0 to 10. This helps you uncover exactly where the bottlenecks are inside of your brand. And just because I always like to go above and beyond for y'all, I've also made a downloadable PDF and worksheet with diagrams that goes along with this so that you know exactly where your brand falls inside of these 9 elements. So the link to get all of this completely free is in the description below. All right, so before we dive into these 9 items, you need to understand that building your personal brand, it isn't something that's random. It's systematic. Most people fail because they treat their personal brand like throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping something sticks. Most people lack a framework or a dedicated 9-step checklist that helps them to build their brand in a strategic and systematic way. The framework I'm about to share with you is built off of 3 pillars. And these 3 pillars work much like a tripod. If you remove 1 or 2 of the legs, it's gonna fall over. So you need all 3 of these things in order to build a successful personal brand. And these 3 pillars are none other than you, your brand, and your business. Think of it like this. Look at your favorite brands, someone like Tony Robbins or Gary Vee. They didn't just wake up one day and become legendary personal brands, right? They all had a clear story, a distinctive brand strategy, and business systems that help them monetize their influence. And these same principles that have helped build up the greats apply to you as a coach, consultant, or entrepreneur. Now let's break down each pillar, starting with pillar number 1, you. So pillar number 1 is all about uncovering your authentic foundation. This is where a lot of people get stuck because they think that being authentic just means being yourself without any strategy at all. To me, that's a lot like building a house and telling it to just be authentic and not even using any blueprints. So step 1 of this pillar is your story. Your story isn't just what happened to you or your past. It's a strategic narrative that connects your background with your current expertise. Your story is often the first thing that allows you to stand out, connect with your audience, and position yourself in these crowded marketplaces. More times than not, your clients aren't just buying a product or a service. They're buying from you. They're buying your unique journey, your experience, and your perspective. I had a client before who was a corporate lawyer turned coach. And his story wasn't just, I'm a coach. That would be missing out on all of his relevant background and experiences and perspectives. It was, I spent 10 years seeing amazing entrepreneurs destroy their business through horrible contracts and legal mistakes. So I developed a system to help them scale without the legal landmines that sink most businesses. Do you see the difference in that? All right, moving on to element number 2, which is your unique positioning. Most people are afraid to be specific because they think it limits their market, it limits the potential reach of their audience. But it's actually the complete opposite. When you try to be everything to everyone, you become nothing to no one. Your positioning should answer this question. When someone in your industry has a specific problem, why are you the obvious choice? Not the good choice, the obvious choice. Element number 3 is your Omni-Presence strategy. This is also commonly referred to as just your content strategy. This isn't about just posting everywhere. It's about systematic visibility. A lot of people will use the phrase being so good they can't ignore you, but you also need to be so omnipresent that they don't forget you. Your content strategy should be a lot like a web, where wherever your client goes, they see your content. And this isn't just random content posted across every platform. It's strategically planned content that reinforces your story and your positioning of your brand. But let's transition to the next pillar, because this is where your authentic foundation gets transformed into strategic branding. So pillar number 2 is your brand. Pillar 2 is where most people think personal branding starts. But what you can see is it's actually the second pillar. You can't build a strong personal brand without first the solid foundation. And then you can't monetize this personal brand without the business systems, which is coming next. So element number 4, and the first element of this pillar, is your brand identity. Your brand identity is your visual and voice fingerprint. When somebody sees your content, they should immediately know that it's you, even if your name isn't on it. This goes far beyond just having a logo. And honestly, I'd argue for your personal brand, your logo isn't even that important, because 9 times out of 10, your logo is just your name. Building a brand identity is all about having a cohesive aesthetic and a cohesive identity across all your platforms. This is what makes you instantly recognizable, and I'd go as far as to say memorable. Think about Gary Vee. You can spot his content from a mile away because his brand identity and his voice is so consistent. The energy, the colors, the typography that he uses, and even the way that he speaks, it's all systematically aligned. Which brings us to our next element, element 5, which is brand strategy. This is your strategic framework for making brand decisions. Most people make decisions about what they think looks good, and that's not strategy, that's personal preference. Your brand strategy should answer who exactly you are serving. What transformation do you provide? What makes you different from every other option in the market? And how do you want people to feel when they interact with your brand? Element number 6 is then your process. This is where I think 90% of personal brands fail. They don't have a signature methodology or process. They just sell consulting or coaching without a systematic approach. For the clients that I work with that are hitting 7 figures and beyond, this is one of their biggest differentiators. Your process is what transforms you from just another service provider to a strategic growth partner for most of your clients. It's what helps facilitate their transformation. This could be a framework, a methodology, or just a step-by-step process to seeing results. But what's most important is that it needs to be uniquely yours. Hey, if you're liking this information so far and you're a coach, consultant, creator, and you want help scaling your personal brand to the 7-figure mark and beyond, I invite you to click the link in the description and see if working with me and my team is right for you. Now let's get back to the final pillar, because this is when everything comes together and it's what takes your personal brand and turns it into a revenue generating machine. So pillar number 3 is your business. Pillar number 3, like I said, is when your personal brand, your interest, becomes a business. You can have the most authentic story, the most visually appealing brand, but without pillar 3, you'll stay broke. Pillar number 3 is known as your business systems, and it's what helps generate revenue. So the first element for pillar 3 is going to be your home base, or in other words, your website. And in this time, your website is no longer just a pretty brochure or business card. It should be your 24/7 sales and marketing engine. So it should work a lot more like a funnel rather than just a brochure. Every page on your site should have a specific action you want your clients, or rather your prospects, to take. The idea is that this home base is taking your audience and moving them to becoming paying clients. So I think where a lot of people go wrong on this is that they treat their website like a vanity project. It's just all about them. Or in other words, a lot of times it can look pretty, but it doesn't actually convert or do anything for them. And this is exactly what we do for our clients inside of the Fame Machine. But in general, your website should answer a few key questions within the first 10 seconds of your prospect landing on the page. It should answer what you do, how you do it, and how they can begin to work with you. Or in other words, what's that next step you want them to take? When you kick your website into the next gear, like we do for our clients inside the Fame Machine, you start to strategically leverage your website for things like video sales letters or webinars or call funnels, things that actually help you convert your prospects and scale your brand. But we'll talk a little more about this in element 9. All right, so element number 8 is then your offer. Your offers, in short, are how you monetize your personal brand. But here's the key. Your offers have to be dialed dialed in if you want to have success for your personal brand. What I recommend most people do is spend time dialing in one core offer. This core offer has to deliver exceptional results, making it nearly impossible for your prospects to say no. Most of my clients will actually hit the 7-figure mark with just one exceptional offer marketed to just one specific niche. Before you start thinking you need to make a ton of offers to hit that 7-figure mark, focus on creating just one compelling offer. I think it's worth spending a little bit of extra time on this point, so here are a few key principles to keep in mind. One is focus on the transformation you want your prospects to have. 2, differentiate your offer by creating a unique offer that solves your prospects' specific pain points. And 3, something I've seen work best is make sure you're setting premium prices. When you do the math on scaling to 7 figures and beyond, it's very hard to do if you don't have a premium price point. And if you want more information on how to build a compelling offer, check out Alex Hormozi's book, $100 Million Offers. Once you have that dialed in, you're ready for element number 9. Element number 9 is what I like to call your growth engine. This is your systematic process for generating new leads and converting them into sales. Most people with their personal brand, they rely on hope and hustle and just posting more content. This isn't a business model. For most people at that point, it's just a hobby. Your growth engine should include a few key pieces that I'll highlight here. Lead generation channels, lead magnets, nurture sequences, sales processes, and systems for scaling. When all these elements are implemented and working properly, you should be able to predict how many leads and sales you can make every single month. So with this system, we're throwing out the hope and hustle, and we're boiling down scaling your business into key metrics that we can track. This is exactly what we do for clients inside of the Fame Machine. But to give you the cliff notes, I recommend focusing on 3 key areas. At the top of the funnel, you have your audience that you need to be strategic about growing, whether that's through your organic content, promoting content through ads, or building your email list through things like your lead magnets. The next step of the funnel, we have your conversion mechanisms. And these are your calls to actions, your video sales letters, your call funnels that convert your audience into paying clients. And then lastly, at the bottom of the funnel, we have what I like to call your back-end selling systems. For a lot of people, that can be as simple as referrals. It could be capturing testimonials. It could also be things like more advanced, like retargeting ads, or even things like upselling them into continuity offers to continue to grow month over month. But the beauty of this system and all 3 of these pillars is that it compounds. The better your story, positioning, and presence, Pillar 1, the more effective your brand identity, strategy, and processes, or Pillar 2, which makes your website, your offers, and your growth engine, or Pillar 3, even more profitable. All right, so now let's take a second to look at our scoring system and our implementation of these elements. This is where it all comes together. Within the quiz, I have each of these laid out in their own category ranked from 0 to 10. Here's the scale. From 0 to 2, it means foundational work is needed. You're basically just starting from scratch. From 2 to 4, it means basic elements are in place, but they need more development. From 4 to 7, it means you have a solid foundation with room for optimization. And from 7 to 10, it means you have advanced, systematic, and scalable implementation. The magic happens when you identify your lowest category score, because that's usually your biggest bottleneck. And the key to scaling is identifying where those bottlenecks are and focusing your time, attention, and resources on fixing those bottlenecks. I've seen entrepreneurs with amazing content, but terrible offers and wondering why they're not scaling. But I've also seen entrepreneurs with great offers, but no systematic way to generate leads. I've learned that people are often psychologically more motivated to fix things that are broken. And that's exactly what this quiz helps you to identify. So use this to your advantage. Fix your lowest score first and work your way up. The key is to think systematically. Don't just randomly implement tactics if you haven't first mastered the foundational element. Use this scorecard to identify exactly where you need to spend your time and resources in order to scale your personal brand. All right, and there you have it, the 9-step personal branding checklist. Remember, this isn't about perfection. It's about systematic improvement. So to recap, your story, your positioning, and your presence creates your foundation. Your brand identity, strategy, and process creates your differentiation. Then your website, your offers, and your growth engine create your revenue. Most people try to skip these steps or do everything at once. That's why they burn out or give up. Use this framework to build systematically, and you'll build a personal brand that doesn't just get attention, but it grows systematically and sustainably. If you want more ways to grow your personal brand and scale, I recommend you check out this video next, where we dive deep into building your personal brand positioning statements. It's an absolute banger.